Last on Everdark, Elizabeth gets to ask Damon a variety of questions. While everyone is very interested in her answers, Fiona is the most struck by them as her beliefs are challenged. Sophia then reveals that her mistress, the immortal seer, is being held in solace. Damon promises to rescue her. Everdark, Episode 55, At the King's Pleasure. Damon waited in his and Julian's room in the guest house for Julian to join him. His fledgling had gone to settle the Thorns into their room. The Thorns, at first, had resisted the idea of staying at Ravenscroft Manor. Not that they had wanted to leave Julian or Christian alone, but they had wanted to retreat to their territory. He understood this, on an intellectual level at least. They saw the boys as theirs. The boys were no longer theirs, but the instinct to hold the boys close and protect them, even if they were incapable of doing so, was understandable. In order to keep the Thorns here, Julian and Christian had been determined to make them feel at home, which included staying with them on their own for some time prior to dawn. So Damon waited. A few hours was nothing for an immortal, usually. He sought to commune with the earth, not fully, which would have required direct skin-to-dirt contact, but to assume a meditative state and allow his senses to spread outwards across the world. He stripped down to his black leather pants and sat cross-legged on their bed. However, every creak, every footstep, every breath, every laugh, every damned mouse whisker moving had him opening his eyes and looking towards the door expectantly, even though he knew it was not Julian there. Julian's thoughts were like a river rushing with too many ideas, like fish leaping out of the silvery waters and then vanishing beneath them again. He was trying to give Julian privacy, as this concept seemed to matter very much to his fledgling in this matter, but he was very inclined to eavesdrop. He wanted to listen in because he knew, oh, how he knew, that the Thorns were trying to sow doubt about him, Balthazar, and all vampire kind into the boys' minds. Just as his will on this was about to break, he felt Julian reach for him mentally, and their minds held hands comfortably. His shoulders, which he had not realized were stiff, relaxed as soon as Julian's quicksilver mind brushed against his.
"Hey, sorry for the wait. I'm coming,"
Julian told him, and he could sense that his fledgling was jogging out of the main house and to the guest one. It was not so long, Damon lied. It had been interminable. "You are tired."
"Not so tired that I want to go to bed quite yet,"
Julian insisted, and the image of them kissing was suddenly in the forefront of his fledgling's mind. "Oh, I see," Damon chuckled. "Not that tired, then?"
"No. Are you tired?"
By which Julian really meant, was he not interested in kissing and caressing and other things? "I am not tired at all," Damon assured him.
"Good."
And there was the impression of Julian dancing in his mind, even though his fledgling was still just running. It must have meant something that he did not yet understand.
"It does. It just means I'm so happy that I could dance. The ultimate expression of happiness."
"I see." Damon did not, but it did not matter. He knew his fledgling was pleased, and that was all that mattered. "How did your meeting go?"
"It wasn't a meeting."
Julian laughed. He was in the guest house now, charging up the stairs.
"It was just, being with family, making them happier with the situation, soothing fears, that sort of thing."
Damon did not know. Even though the Immortals had been the equivalent of family in some ways, he was their king. They reported to him. They had meetings. Even when they might have been feeding or riding or doing other things, there was still a formality to it. "Was that all it was? I thought perhaps it might be an inquisition," Damon said. He rose up from the bed and headed towards the door to greet Julian, not wanting there to be an infinitesimal delay between Julian entering their rooms and him seeing his fledgling. He felt a mental sigh come from Julian, but then his fledgling agreed.
"You already know Elizabeth enough to know there was a discussion."
"What sorts of discussion?"
"The usual. Who is that dark-haired man that wears leather and fur?"
Julian was hugely amused by this, though Damon could not quite understand why his clothing was so funny. He thought it suited him perfectly, and Julian seemed to admire his beauty in them. Damon had reached the door, as had Julian. His fledgling opened the door, and Damon captured him in his arms before taking his mouth in a long, deep kiss. Julian moaned, his mental state melting into something that did not allow him to form thoughts, just feelings. My dearest acolytes, I regret to inform you that this podcast has been edited to conform to this platform's rules and regulations. Obviously, sexy vampire interludes are not appreciated by these plebeians. This episode has been cut to be acceptable to audiences of all ages. Not to worry, if you are interested in hearing the full episode with all the steamy parts included, you can purchase a monthly membership at wraithrain.com. Not ready to commit to a monthly membership? Then please visit the shop at wraithrain.com, where the full episodes are available for sale in audiobook format. The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thelis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. Last on Everdark, Julian and Damon were having a wonderful time together. But now we turn back to Balthazar, who is not done with Fiona or Elizabeth yet. Everdark, Episode 56, Magic Words. Balthazar stood in the doorway of Fiona's room. He'd tried to put her in the dungeon. Arceus had overridden him, and she was to stay in a bedroom beside the confessors. Arceus was currently assuring himself that the staff had left the room spotless, as if they would have done anything else, while Balthazar and Fiona were conducting a stare-down. Fiona stood ramrod straight, her legs shoulders length apart, hands crossed at the wrists at the base of her spine. Her silver eyes didn't even seem to blink. For his part, Balthazar leaned against the threshold with his usual languid grace. His eyes were hooded, and not because he was still hung over from the corpse powder. He wanted to seem unconcerned yet menacing. It was a strange mix, and he wasn't sure he was pulling it off. But he continued to try in any case.
Balthazar, don't you want to be with Christian?
Arceus asked without turning around as he fluffed pillows. He's with his parents. Balthazar's voice was clipped, which belied the languid pose. But maybe it's adding to the thread. Or maybe I just sound as brittle as I feel about it.
Well, maybe you want to check on Heath.
Still dead and floating, Balthazar retorted. And Ridley is taking care of her mistress, so nothing to be done there.
Perhaps then a meeting with the rest of the house about the status of things.
Sent an intra-house text. Surely you got it. It's on one of those infernal devices you loathe, but it is there. He interrupted. What looked suspiciously like a smile curled Fiona's lips, as if she was amused by this back and forth between him and Arceus, but she quickly wiped it away, if it had ever been there. Arceus sighed and turned around to face him.
You are hovering.
Yes. Arceus frowned.
That's not good.
He pushed off of the threshold and held up one hand. It depends on whose viewpoint you're taking into consideration. Not allowing a prisoner to flounce about my home.
I'm not flouncing. I don't flounce.
Fiona's voice was cool. You're not here for the good of House Ravenscroft. You're here for yourself. If it would behoove you to betray us, you'd do it. So, flouncing or not, you should not be free. Balthazar responded just as coolly.
Then why are you allowing me to be free?
She asked. Because when you betray us, I will be able to use this incident over Arceus's thick skull like a cudgel. He will never live it down, and he will have to accede that I was right. About you, and many things, Balthazar answered. Arceus looked mildly amused and irritated by his words. Fiona, though, was tense as a bow.
I have nothing against House Ravenscroft,
she said. Bullshit. But fine. Okay. I'll take you at your word. The problem is that you have nothing for us either, he answered. You take pride in the fact that you have no loyalty to anyone. To institutions, sure. He added that to cut off her objection. But you're not loyal to people.
Because people are changeable and make terrible mistakes. They are subjective, not objective. I stand by principles.
She straightened even further. From where I'm standing, the only entity that you serve, the Order, is full of shit, he said. All of it is a lie. We know that Kali and Seer and Damon and other immortals still live. So the war that the sacred texts claim happened in a certain way didn't happen that way at all.
And you? You are Iros reborn. So you are another of the immortals that, well, didn't survive but came back.
Her silver eyes narrowed. Quite. And don't make that sound like a bad thing. I'm a good immortal, unlike Kali, who you have been working for all this time. You should think on that, he said grumpily, and then turned to Arceus. I'll let you tuck her in, or whatever it is you're doing here, Arceus.
I want to talk to her, to catch up.
Arceus told him with another raised eyebrow. Balthazar snorted. He wasn't sure if he was jealous that Fiona still held a piece of Arceus's heart or what, but Christian had sent him a mental nudge that said he needed some assistance escaping his parents. He turned and headed out of the door. Just as he'd taken a step outside, Fiona called after him.
You're wrong about me, you know.
He looked back at her. She stood, tall, proud, and defiant, but there was a little fragility in her, which he had never seen before. So the acidic quip he'd been about to fling at her died on his lips, and he said instead, "Prove it to me. Prove you aren't still the woman who stood by when the Order exiled Arceus and simply wrung her hands instead of joining him. Prove that you will actually stand up for people. Do that, and you're good in my book." He stalked down the hallway to where the Thorns were being housed for the moment. But before he got halfway there, he saw Elizabeth standing outside Elena's room. Her forehead was puckered, and she was frowning. Alarmed that Elizabeth might go inside and Elena would react badly, Balthazar hustled down the hallway and whispered, "Elizabeth! Elizabeth!" Her head turned with a quizzical look on her face. When she saw it was him, she crossed her arms over her chest and raised her chin. He suppressed a sigh. She really was not fond of him. His charm bounced off her like she had literal shields. "What are you doing here, and not in your quarters?" he asked, wondering how she had come to be wandering here. She waved one hand vaguely.
I needed to walk, needed to move a little, be on my own.
He squeezed the top of his nose. Was Elizabeth just a little crazy? To walk around this house of vampires without any care in the world? Not that his people would have done anything to her, but still. "Well, I think it best if we go back to your room," he said, and gently took her elbow, leading her down the hall.
A woman is crying inconsolably in there.
He frowned. "Yes, that's Elena. She is the mistress of one of the fledglings who—" What could he say? The people who chased and tried to kill her son and Julian? Who was involved in the whole mess with the Order? Her fledgling was given his second death, so she is in mourning. Her frown deepened.
Second death?
Our first death is the one we lose when we become immortal. He should have used second life, not second death. Both terms were correct. But now she would think only of the negative. He silently cursed himself.
That's awful. She sounds like a mother who has lost her child.
Elizabeth shivered. Yes, it is a bit like that. Though Damon was in the midst of bringing Heath back to life when that fucking Callie came along and... Oh, right. You don't know what I'm talking about. And it would involve explaining bringing back the dead. That would likely not be a good subject.
Go back to the bit where you said Damon was bringing someone back to life. Full life, like mortal life.
She touched her chest. No, still as a vampire. He responded dryly. Julian and Christian are vampires forever, Elizabeth. You have to come to terms with this or...
Or what?
Her chin lifted. Again he had seemingly walked into a verbal death trap. Where was his ability to read people and say the right thing at the right time? Evidently with Elizabeth it had run away from him altogether. But he could feel her thoughts. He resisted mightily reading them as he'd promised Christian that there would be no mind control. But he did know, if he lied to her now, that she would know, mind-reading ability or not, and it would be bad. Or maybe Damon's right, that you're a destructive influence. Despite his determination not to lie, Balthazar could not believe he was saying this. What about the charm? He should lay on the charm. But his mouth was moving, and he wasn't aware of willing it to.
Destructive?
Her eyes widened. Julian and Christian must accept who they are now. There's no going back, so acceptance of their second life is crucial, he explained. There are vampires who won't survive if they won't feed. The moral qualms of drinking blood from mortals overwhelm them. It's a hard transition, and having a parent disapproving and wanting them back the way they were, well, that doesn't help.
I imagine it doesn't.
She crossed her arms tightly over her chest.
Intellectually, I see what you're saying, but emotionally? I feel you and Damon have stolen Julian and Christian from me, like thieves in the night.
How have we stolen them? Elizabeth, they would be dead, truly dead, and no longer reachable by you or Henry if they had not been turned.
Turned. Even that word makes them seem like turncoats, because they're no longer human. They feed on humans,
she said, her hands fisted in tight balls at her sides. Would you like to see some of the people we feed from? They live in the guest house. He pointed towards the back gardens. Confusion filled her eyes.
They live here. But don't you...
She made a helpless gesture with her hand. Kill them? No, not often. It's considered quite gauche if you do, he informed her.
Gauche?
She let out a thin laugh. With our gifts, handling a human should be easy. If you cannot feed from them without killing them, you are either weak or out of control. Neither is acceptable in vampire society, he told her.
So they live here and they know what you are and what you're going to do to them. Are they prisoners?
God, no, he laughed. What fun would that be? Unless you're a sadist or... Look, that's not what we are in House Ravenscroft. The only people here are the ones that want to be. She looked like she half believed him, but was still suspicious.
But your gift is the ability to read minds and change them, too.
He shrugged. I can charm anyone I want. Her eyebrows lifted.
But you haven't done this with Henry and me. Why?
He scrubbed the back of his neck and mumbled, Because Christian told me not to. She let out a laugh that was filled with genuine amusement.
I see that my son is already getting his way. It's amazing for someone so soft-spoken to be so stubborn. He can put his ears back and be an immovable force.
Oh, yes, and one scowl from him ruins my night, he admitted with a shrug. Her expression softened.
He's already gotten you wrapped around his little finger, then. That's what you want me to believe in any case, right?
I could make you believe I was the Queen of England right now, or that you are Jesus Christ, he told her simply. There would be no way that you would ever know what was real or what I placed in your mind, so I wouldn't bother using simple words to misdirect you.
And here I thought you wanted to impress me,
she said dryly. I did. I do. I could have you thinking I was brilliant.
When you aren't.
Her eyes twinkled a lot like Christian's at that moment. He let out a laugh. Touché, madame. But no, I am brilliant. Truly.
Yes, I bet you are.
And I would like to be your friend. She smiled thinly.
My brilliant friend.
Whatever kind of friend you want. He paused and went on. But I can't have you affecting Christian and Julian negatively. I want you and Henry as part of our lives. But if you persist in this negative behavior, well, I know you need time to accept this. It's been a shock, and with everything else going on, he shrugged. It's more difficult than usual.
I've always been a huge fan of audiobooks. I listen more than I read, since I'm on a screen all day to, write my stories. This is why I make every book published on Amazon into an audiobook, and I'm very selective about my narrators. I can tell who's just looking for work and will take anything that pays, and who actually understands and likes the story. You can find every audiobook, but Everdark, on Audible and Amazon. At this point, all my series are completed, including Cinders and Ashes, and they all have audiobooks available. Follow the link to my Amazon page.
Elizabeth's gaze went distant, and there was the faintest quiver of her lower lip. She firmed it, though her eyes were bright with unshed tears.
I didn't expect you to be so
Forthright?
certain. You go from being the playboy to, well, I don't know what you are.
She brushed a hand over her eyes. It's easier to be thought of as empty-headed.
But you're not. Clearly, you're not.
She gestured helplessly.
I don't really know you. I just assumed.
You wouldn't be altogether wrong that I have played the jaded scamp. You must understand, my ability lets me know what anyone is thinking. I always know when people are lying, and I can find the truth out at any time if I want. He was explaining this as much to her as to himself. He pressed his lips together. When you always can know the truth, you understand the value of lies and facades, big and small. They make our interactions easier.
They also poison things. David,
I know what he did to Christian. Her eyes widened.
did Christian tell you?
Of course. And no, I did not compel him to. I would never dare betray his trust that way, he said stiffly.
You have this sense of honor that perplexes me. You honestly seem like you're a good man. But I don't know how to square that with you being a predator.
She admitted. He leaned against the wall. They had stopped walking some time ago, only half a length from Elena's room, but she did not seem inclined to go back to her own room then. It's not an easy thing to square. Sometimes I can't square it, especially since I've learned some things about myself that, well, let's just say that how you view vampires is how I viewed immortals like Damon.
It's not just about you being a vampire. I can't even believe I'm saying the word.
But it's also David, right? You fear that I'm like him. That hurt to say. But he did understand it. They were both predators of a certain sort.
It sounds so selfish to say this, but it wasn't just to Christian that all of this happened. It was to all of us. He was our friend.
She beat her hand against her chest with sudden passion.
We trusted him with Christian. We thought...
She swallowed hard, but it looked painful, as if she was swallowing glass.
Christian has always been so quiet and thoughtful and separate from people, as if he's watching life instead of participating in it.
And David encouraged him to participate. Balthazar guessed, hating David a little more than he already did. She nodded.
Yes, he made Christian want to be present, and I hate him for that more than the rest of it because, you see, afterwards, Christian withdrew so far that I couldn't even reach him. Julian coaxed him out inch by inch, but he still holds people apart.
And you think it wise to question his choices about the people he lets in? He asked disbelievingly.
No, I just...
Elizabeth, I watched you. He pointed towards the dining room. I watched you undermine him again and again about his belief in me and Damon.
I didn't, I just...
She blinked the tears back, but she was rigid.
We have things and people that attract us, types, you know? Sometimes those types are bad for us.
I'm nothing like David.
How do I know that?
You just fear it. He shook his head. Things are difficult for you, for me, for Christian, for Julian.
You want me to give both of my boys up so that I'll make things less difficult?
She was already shaking her head. No. What I want is for both of us to stop acting out of fear and do what's best for the boys, he said simply. We have greater roles to play, and we need to inhabit those so that we are not letting our shit get in the way.
There's really no way back for them, is there?
She asked after a long moment of quiet contemplation. No, this is it. They are vampires. A single tear fell down her cheek. He reached out and after a moment's hesitation wiped it away. She sniffled and did not reject his touch. She grasped his hand and held it for a moment.
Your skin is warm,
she remarked.
I noticed nothing different about the boys except their eyes. But I thought, are you undead?
We're turned. changed into something new. But we're not like zombies or something, or even sleek corpses. We just aren't human anymore, he answered, which was as much as he really knew. Arceus knows more. Well, really, Damon knows everything, but he hasn't told us yet.
Why do you suppose that is?
I don't think it's a nefarious reason. He just doesn't quite view time the same way we do. Maybe in 1,000 years he'll drop some clues, Balthazar said with a shrug. Besides, it's sort of fun not to know.
So incurious.
Her tone was just as chiding as Christian's could be. Answers can be incredibly disappointing. When there are multiple possibilities, it's better, he explained.
I suppose that's true.
Growing serious again, he told her, I know there are parts of all of this that are going to be hard to accept. I know that there are going to be things that freak you out, but you're their mother, Elizabeth. You loved them before, no matter what. I believe you can love them now, no matter what. He told her with a certainty that he simply hoped was true.
Of course I love them. Of course I'll accept them. I just have to let go of the dreams I had for them and realize there is something else in store,
she said softly. Yes, big things in store, actually, he said. That's sort of double-edged, though, like the Chinese proverb where you wish someone lived in interesting times. She nodded, wiping away more tears, but smiling.
Yes, indeed. That is something you wish upon your enemies.
Well, we're all in the same boat. Now, let me escort you back to your room. I'm sure that Christian and Henry are worried about you. He offered his arm. She took it. She busily wiped her face clean.
Is my makeup a mess?
Actually, I think it's all washed away.
Oh, no.
You look lovely. Don't worry, he said. The bedroom door was open. Christian, who had been sitting on the edge of the chair by the fireplace, sprang up.
Mom, I was going to send a search party out for you in a minute.
Christian cried. She went right to him and cupped his face.
Don't be silly. I was fine. Balthazar and I were just talking.
Christian's gaze flickered to him and back to her.
Oh, and that went well?
She smiled at Balthazar.
It did. We had a nice talk.
About what?
Henry had come over to his wife at that same moment.
Just about the start of things. There's so much about being a vampire that I didn't know. So much to learn. I'm excited to find out more.
Her voice actually did hold a note of enthusiasm. Christian blinked, and the distinct worry that she was a pod person went through his mind. I'm going to sick your mother on Damon. He might just give us some more answers if she's questioning him, Balthazar said as he leaned against the threshold. This time it wasn't to intimidate or look like he didn't care. This time, he just wanted to take in the family picture, and he liked what he saw. Suddenly, Sophia was beside him. She was dressed in cat pajamas, and she had a brush and 2 ribbons in her hands.
Elizabeth?
She said sweetly.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but...
Balthazar had a momentary worry that Elizabeth would be repulsed by the child vampire. He'd seen it happen before, and he knew Sophia would be crushed by it. But there wasn't even a flicker of disgust in the woman. Instead, she warmly came and touched Sophia's shoulders.
What are you still doing up?
Elizabeth tutted.
Isn't it late? Or, near dawn?
Almost time to sleep, but I was hoping...
Sophia thrust the ribbons and brush at her.
That you'd braid my hair into 2 pigtails.
Of course I will.
Elizabeth took the brush and ribbons and urged Sophia to the bed.
You need to be pretty for sleep.
Her gaze swung to her son.
Speaking of bedtime...
You're kidding. Mom, I'm old enough to...
Sophia's much older than you, and she understands that it's time to go to bed.
She indicated he should head out with Balthazar. Christian gave his mother a smile before he then kissed both her and his father on the cheek before joining Balthazar in the hallway. He waved good night. As they walked down the hall to their rooms, Christian put an arm through his.
You didn't use your mind control powers on her, did you, Balthazar?
Christian asked. I promised I wouldn't. I am a man of honor. Your mother recognizes that. He acted mock-affronted.
Really?
But then Christian was laughing.
Well, whatever you did, even that, I'm glad. She was so distraught about everything.
She has a right to be, Balthazar said. But I think now she'll be looking at things differently.
What did you say?
Christian asked, his eyes full of curiosity. Balthazar leaned over and kissed his temple. Just that she loves you, and you need her. Those two things were all it took.
Magic words.
Christian was smiling and looked pleased. The tension had drained out of him. Magic words, indeed. Join us next time for episode 57, Die For You.
What about you? Do you listen more than you read? Do you prefer audiobooks to podcasts? Or do you listen to both? What else do you listen to other than Everdark? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear about your life.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. Last on Everdark, Balthazar faces down both Fiona and Elizabeth. He challenges Fiona to trust in people instead of institutions and truly stand up for those she cares for. He gets Elizabeth to consider how her fear that another person, another David, will hurt her son is causing her to undermine Christian's confidence. And he did it all without mind control. Now we turn to Caemorn as he realizes Fiona has left the spire. Everdark, episode 57, Die For You.
Where is she? Did she leave the spire? She must be somewhere. We shut down the gate between here and Earth.
Caemorn shouted at his two werewolves. They cringed and hid their faces beneath their paws. Magic crackled in the air around him. He was so angry that dozens of soul lights clustered around his form as if to comfort him. But, of course, that was an illusion. The people that filled the soul lights had been captured. They were his enemies. He was probably the last person in existence they would want to comfort. It was his rage that was summoning them as if he expected a battle. But regardless of his anger or his logic, no one, not even Tarn or Farun, could locate Fiona Darksilver. It was like she had vanished from the face of the Everdark.
There's no record of her leaving the spire, let alone Solace, and going into the unknown lands.
Caemorn thought.
She wouldn't do that. She has no taste for hunting, and she knew I would need her, but she's gone.
At that moment, there was a chime from the glass, and Artemis appeared in the magical mirror that connected Lasting and Solace. His lovely face was set in a deep frown. He was angry. Worse, he was disappointed. Caemorn had come to dread that disappointment more than outright anger. It cut deeper. "Have you located Fiona yet?" Artemis asked. He wanted to question her about exactly what she'd seen and heard about Damon. Caemorn's mouth was dreadfully dry, and he swallowed convulsively, trying to get some saliva to wet his tongue so that he could speak without it clinging to the top of his mouth.
Not yet, but I'm sure.
Not yet? How about not ever? Artemis snapped, and his silver eyes blazed like liquid mercury fires. I thought Fiona might be her. Lost and gone, but back again like so many of the others. The same arrogance, the same isolation. Always a scholar, always keeping to herself and pretending that she was a team of one. Caemorn blinked. What was his master on about? Fiona was an intelligent and powerful confessor, but the way he spoke of her was as if they had had a history. But Fiona was only 300 years old, and as far as he knew, her interactions with Artemis had been relegated to a few Order events over the centuries. Yet here was Artemis acting as if she was someone he knew very well.
She is loyal to the Order. That is why I sent her on this mission, because she understood how Damon could destroy all the stability that the Order has brought to vampire kind.
He wanted to add, but did not.
You agreed with me.
She's gone to Damon.
No, she wouldn't.
She would. She did.
My master, she must be here. No one can get in or out of Solace with the gate closed. So even if she was disloyal, she couldn't get away from here.
Camon found himself saying, and winced. Of course Artemis knew this. His master would likely think he was calling him an idiot for pointing out the obvious. Yet wasn't Artemis suggesting that Fiona had somehow phased from Solace to Earth? That was impossible. But Artemis seemed not to hear him. His silver eyes were distant, as if he was thinking about something desperate. Finally, his master's gaze sharpened upon him. Artemis was sitting in a throne-like chair, and he leaned forward in it as if he were pressing his nose against the glass. "I need you to go to Earth," Artemis said. A thrill of fear and excitement corkscrewed down Camon's spine.
But King Damon is there.
Damon was the source of fear, but also excitement. It was absurd to still feel the latter. Camon's whole position, his hold on power, was threatened by the Vampire King. And yet, there was still that part of him that thrilled to the old stories about Damon. Was he really all that had been written about? And so is his new fledgling, Artemis pointed out. Camon went very still. He remembered a conversation, not all that long ago in vampire terms, but 16 years in human ones, where Artemis had asked him to kill Julian Harrow's parents, and then Julian himself, though he was just a child at the time. If Julian knew about the existence of vampires and the Everdark, his life was forfeit. But Camon had been spared having to destroy that young life, because Julian had been unaware of his parents' great discovery. But now, it seemed that Artemis wanted to send him after Julian again. Though Julian was no longer a child, Camon had an almost superstitious desire to stay away from the young man personally. He felt as if he had gotten away with harming Julian once, but he would not be so lucky the second time. Though really, Heath and Celine were his second attempt, weren't they? It was ridiculous to fear Julian. After all, Julian was a newly made vampire. Even if he was Damon's, his newness meant he was weak in comparison to Camon.
The moment I set foot on Earth, Damon will know.
Camon practically shouted. He wanted to ask,
Why don't you go to Earth? Why don't you risk anything?
"I can shield you from everyone's sight for a time," Artemis said. Camon's eyes narrowed.
How? King Damon was stronger than any of the immortals, so how can you protect me from him? Are you claiming to be stronger than the immortals? Than Kali himself?
Artemis stared at him without blinking for long moments, as if mastering his temper. But this was the simple truth. To ask something so outrageous of him meant that hard questions had to be asked in response. "I can hide you for a time, not forever," Artemis finally answered him. "Damon is nowhere near his full strength, or he would have burst through the gates and we would be done for." Camon swallowed.
Burst through the gates, but they are locked. Can he really?
"Yes, he can get in. Everdark responds to him. And in the end, it will open to him like a fucking bloom," Artemis answered, his lips writhing back from his teeth for a moment as if that fact angered him.
So the lockdown won't work.
He felt like the world tipped beneath his feet. They had been bringing in blood slaves, consolidating power in the Everdark, and now Artemis was telling him that there was no safety here. As I said, no. Regardless, if he had Fiona on his side, then we're not safe now either, Artemis clarified. She might be able to bring him through. She'll be able to bring others.
Because Fiona can phase between Earth and the Everdark?
He guessed. But that was impossible. No, only the immortal Wyvern could do that. Yet Fiona had been able to phase within the spire, and no one could do that either. So maybe her gift was as extreme as Balthazar's. Maybe she was Wyvern reborn, like he was Iros reborn.
And is there a Kali reborn?
His gaze settled on his master. Artemis was tapping his fingers against his throne, his silver eyes flickering all over the place. "He's going to outmaneuver me," He thinks he will, but he will not.
How long do we have until Damon can breach the gates?
Caemon asked. Every minute of every night he grows in strength. It could be in years or in days. We need a bargaining chip, Artemis said. You need to take Julian captive and bring him back to me.
Julian?
Caemon's mouth was dry as dust again.
You want me to kidnap Julian Harrow?
He dug his fingernails into his palms so he did not let out a hysterical laugh. How exactly was he supposed to steal Damon's fledgling from right under the Vampire King's nose? Oh, and he would have to get past Balthazar Ravenscroft as well, and the whole of House Ravenscroft too. Would he be shielded from them as well? The fact that Artemis said he was to do it meant that he was likely to go alone. He already knew this of his master too. Yes, it is the only way to control Damon. We have Julian, so Damon will do anything we want. He was always so damn desperate for a fledgling, and now he has one. And that one will be mine. Artemis's eyes narrowed. His master was speaking more to himself than to Caemon. Caemon wondered if at that moment Artemis knew he was there at all.
How do you know what Damon felt?
Caemon asked. The world was threatening to tumble again. Artemis stilled, and one hand went to his right temple. It is obvious. The texts speak of it. Any master understands what a new fledgling means, and this is Damon's only fledgling, possibly the only one he will ever have.
Does every master feel such things? Would you have done anything for me, Artemis? I think not.
But it was a weakness to care. It was a weakness to even think this. Caemon told himself he was above such things. We need Julian for our long-term survival, Artemis told him.
Did you think he would not come back? That he would sleep forever?
Caemon found himself asking. If you had done your job to keep Julian out of Nightvarden, or better yet, if you'd just simply killed the boy when you had the chance.
Or if you had not killed the Harrows and followed my advice simply just to take their memories.
Caemon almost said. Artemis went on. But that's the past, and we must deal with the now. And now, that requires us to have Julian.
How would I do this? Get past House Ravenscroft security. Get past Balthazar. No spells hide minds. And then somehow get Julian Harrow alone and spirit him back to a gate to lasting. I am curious what your plan for me is.
Caemon's temper slipped, and his voice was crisp. Maybe it was the night hag and her red eyes. Maybe it was this getting back involved with Julian Harrow. Maybe it was the thought that Damon was real and out there and so near he could almost breathe him in. You should be careful with your tongue. Artemis held up a finger but did not wag it. You are not preceptor with me. But, of course, Caemon was preceptor of Artemis. When one entered the order, one left all of one's connections behind, even masters.
No,
Caemon said, the word surprising him as it slipped out like a bullet from a gun.
I will not hold my tongue.
The Everdark performers act on stage, screen, and in front of the microphone for many, many people, but they rarely get to interact with their audience directly. Edward Fox is often in our comments on YouTube, and both he and Hannah Hart, the voice of Sophia Strange and Fiona Darksilver, visit the chat during live streams and premieres. If you want to talk to the actors directly, come to our next live stream. The link to our YouTube channel is in the notes.
Artemis went still as stone, still as a statue. Caemon could count on one hand how many times he had refused his master. You will do as I say, Caemon. I command.
No!
Caemon repeated with more force this time, as he intended to utter the word out loud. In for a penny, in for a pound. He almost wanted to laugh at that.
There is no chance of me surviving such a plan. So there's no reason for me to be polite about it. You are trying to send me to my second death.
His master reared back as if physically struck. You've never spoken to me with such a lack of respect.
You've never asked me to kill myself.
This plan can work. I can keep you safe from...
If it is such a good plan and requires the strongest vampire between the two of us, then you should do it yourself. That power you claim to have to shield me would shield you even better, wouldn't it?
Camon asked. There are reasons why it would not. Damon would be aware of my presence the moment I set foot on Earth, so it must be you, Artemis told him. It was surprising that his master was actually discussing this with him, rather than shrieking with all-out fury. This told Camon something rather huge. Artemis was afraid.
What reasons?
Camon crossed his arms over his chest and simply waited. This was a technique he used with almost everyone. He wondered if it would work on his master. The older vampire had more patience than they did, but he had found that temperament played a part too, and his master was more likely to become agitated if he was denied whatever he wanted. Artemis's silver eyes narrowed. Are you truly denying my command?
This is your fault.
Camon's voice was clipped.
You insisted that we kill the Harrows. Absent that, Julian would never have sought out Nightvarlen. He would never have woken King Damon. Now you wish me to do another violent act towards that boy. It is a mistake.
What has given you this backbone, Camon? Artemis leaned forward as if to press his nose against the glass. It was as if he sought to peer into Camon's soul. Camon realized that he was more angry than afraid. He was furious, actually. He had gone along with Artemis's plan, and it had led to this, against his own good judgment.
I have served you without question all these years, gone against my own judgment, and in this case, it is proven to be disastrous because you withheld key information to me. Now, without any explanation, you are insisting that I go up against the strongest of our kind and attempt to steal his fledgling from right under him. For leverage.
If we simply hide in the Everdark, Damon will simply grow strong on Earth and break through. Then he will take us out, one by one, and the world of vampires will once again be enslaved to an immortal's will, Artemis said with a tilt of his chin.
If it is so dire that we would take the course such as you suggest, then perhaps we have come to the end of the road.
Camon stopped speaking. He had always known where the political winds blew. He had used it to his advantage countless times. And now, here he was being told that their only hope of survival was to steal Julian Harrow. It was insane. Are you thinking of going to Damon's side too, Camon? That path is closed to you. Balthazar will rip from your mind that you killed the Harrows. Julian will demand, and Damon will eagerly give him his revenge against you, Artemis said, and there was a faint trembling in his form, not of fear, but of rage. Camon could almost feel his master reaching through the glass and into his brain, trying to assert power over him. But the Everdark was his friend in this, as he was in Solace, and Artemis was in Lasting, two different immortal cities. Even the bond of master and fledglings did not work as well.
On the contrary, I would believe that Balthazar, of all people, would understand doing acts that would be against one's nature because one's master forced him to.
Camon reminded him. That will never work. They will know of your duplicity. They will know that you are their enemy as much as I am, Artemis growled. Camon shrugged.
If the choice is between me going to steal Julian Harrow from the Vampire King and throwing myself upon Balthazar's mercy, I think the latter is a better choice.
You wouldn't. Artemis's face filled the entirety of the glass. There were witch fires in his eyes. A cold chill filled the throne room. Tarn and Faron moved restlessly. He thought a shadow passed across the two moons. How strong was his master to reach across two Everdark cities? For a moment, he wondered who his master was.
What choice do you give me when you only offer me a suicide mission?
Camon asked him.
Tell me the truth of what is going on.
We are besieged. What else do you need to know? Artemis had leaned back in his chair looking relaxed, but still the unnatural chill filled the throne room of the spire.
What reasons make it impossible for you to use these spells or abilities on yourself?
Camon asked. It is a long story.
What makes you think that Fiona could leave Solace and phase to Earth?
Camon ignored the long story comment. The past never really dies. It's never really passed. Artemis tented his fingers under his chin, and Camon felt a thrill go through him. His master was finally going to share one of his secrets with him. Secrets clustered thickly around Artemis. The past comes back.
And that means?
That none of this is new. That the war is eternal, Artemis answered, which wasn't an answer at all.
What war?
As preceptor, you should be quite aware of what war I mean. Or maybe you would be the last one to know. Artemis tapped his lower lip. The war of the immortals.
The immortals are gone.
Camon said the word, but he felt like there was a hole welling in his stomach that would swallow him down. Artemis chuckled and stretched cat-like on the throne. Immortals are eternal. That is their nature. Do you really think that our creations could overthrow us?
Our creations? Overthrow us? You do not mean you and I.
I mean myself and my fellow immortals, Artemis told him simply. Camon felt a creeping sense of numbness coming over his body. He remained lax, though. He did not let this overwhelm him. Not yet.
Who are you?
Your master.
Who are you?
You always wanted to be someone special, Camon. You always dreamed of being Damon's chosen, didn't you? Artemis was smiling. It was not a nice smile.
No.
Don't lie to me. It's impossible for you to truly lie to me. I don't need Iras's gift to know your thoughts, your romantic nature, that you squashed under study and yet more study and the weight of death. Artemis breathed. Well, a truly successful Calais must be romantic. That's the only way we lure the dead to us. He felt the death's head tattoo on his wrist burn.
I became what you wanted me to become. I am consolidating the power of the Order. I am bringing about all that you asked of me, but I will not die for you.
I made you special, Camon. Those powers you are so proud of, your strength that is greater than others, the ability to hug the dead closer than your own parents. I gave them to you, Artemis said with that smile that creeped around the edges of him.
I still will not die for you.
I'm offering you the only way to live.
Who are you?
Camon was so dry again.
Who are you?
Those silver eyes looked like moons to him, moons in a black sky. Your master, the one who made you, the one you belong to.
I belong to the Order.
The Order is a lie, a construct. Meaning is so important to humanity. It is still important to vampires. I enjoyed writing it. Artemis laughed quietly.
You...
The hole inside of him widened. I used to have the dead tell me their stories. It aided me in learning how to tell them to others, Artemis continued. The Order is my creation, like you are. The texts are fiction. Everything that you value so highly about vampire society, I created. And now Damon would strip that all away.
I don't understand how that's possible. If you created the Order, why did it take us all this scheming to get me on top?
Camon asked. It hardly took much scheming. Artemis waved a hand, but I had to hold back because of the others. Yet that is of no matter at this moment, not to you. What I must tell you and what you must know is simply this. I can get to you in solace before Damon can. The soul lights that had surrounded Camon suddenly turned icy cold, and he felt his strength going into them rather than their strength flowing into him. He gasped and stumbled backwards. Farun and Tarn raised their muzzles confused. Camon fell to one knee and let out a thin scream. He desperately tried to disperse the soul lights, but they would not go. Instead, they drifted nearer to him. He could feel the hate of the spirits within them, their desire to harm him as he had harmed them, and his vision became tunneled. His vision showed him Artemis, watching him from his throne through the glass, smiling softly. "You will find a way to get to Julian," Artemis said, "or I will get to you, Camorn." Join us next time for episode 58. Good evening.
Did you know that we made an atmospheric 30-minute music mix with all the music we used from Everdark? It's perfect for studying, reading, or even enjoying your favorite dark fantasy stories. Don't worry, the songs are all legally licensed, and we've linked the amazing composers if we could find them. This mix is only available on YouTube because we're not legally allowed to upload someone else's music to Spotify or iTunes. But there are no ads or breaks, so you can just put it on loop and enjoy. Follow the link in the notes, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel because we'll be putting out Volume 2.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. Last on Everdark, Camorn is ordered by his master Artemis Eleusius to kidnap Julian and bring him to the Everdark city of Lasting, the Kali stronghold. Camorn, however, considers this suicide. He does not see how he can accomplish this, even with the promise of shielding spells. Camorn also wonders why Artemis won't go himself if this is so important and necessary for their security against Daemon. But Artemis insists that Camorn be the one to do this, or it will be the last thing that Camorn does not do. Now we turn back to Julian and Daemon. Everdark, Episode 58. Good evening. The next section of the podcast has been edited out to keep it suitable for a general audience. To get the full version, either subscribe to Wraith Rain as a member or buy the audiobook from the Wraith Rain shop. You are my treasure, Julian.
I wish
What?
that my parents were here, to meet you, to see all this.
Julian confessed, surprised at the sudden urge to see his mother. He and Daemon had just made love, and yet he wanted to get up and go tell her everything he'd learned. Instead, the Thorns were there, and they were not happy about any of this. He wanted the Thorns to be happy about this too, but that just made him want his parents back more keenly than ever, because they would love Daemon, Balthazar, and Arceus, and Sophia, and everyone else without question. They would have had millions of questions for the vampires too. He could very well imagine his mother perched on the edge of the bed, watching them sleep, waiting for them to wake up so that she could talk to Daemon for hours and hours, and days and months and years and decades about all he knew. Not even Daemon would have been able to resist her tenaciousness. His father would have been out interviewing all the other members of House Ravenscroft, or deep in conversation with Arceus. His gaze slid to the edge of the bed, and for a moment, he actually did think he saw his mother sitting on the edge of the bed, smiling at him. He turned his head further, and the impression remained for half a second before he saw that there was no one there. He imagined, though, that the bed looked like someone's weight had been removed. Perhaps he had the power of the Kali bloodline too, and he really had seen his mother there. He knew so little about what all the powers could do. Could one speak to the long dead? Christian could. Maybe he could too. One of Daemon's hands tightened in his hair, and the Vampire King asked, "What is wrong?" Julian wondered if Daemon had felt distress in his mind, or if the slight stiffening of his body had alerted the Vampire King that all was not well with him.
I thought I saw my mom on the bed. Crazy.
Julian explained. Not crazy. It could very well be. Daemon murmured. Julian blinked sudden tears away. Where was this coming from? But he knew. In this moment of utter happiness, he wished he could share it with his parents.
She would have loved you, Damon.
I believe I would have felt the same, Damon murmured. I wish I could bring them back to you.
I love the Thorns. Don't get me wrong. My parents,
Julian swallowed, as if it were a sudden lump in his throat.
like I said, they would have loved this. They would have wanted to become vampires themselves.
Damon nodded against the pillow. There was a faint rustling sound as his cheek moved against the cotton. Such adventurous spirits would have been eager to explore eternity, I'm sure.
So why were they killed? Was it just because they found your city? I don't understand why Caemorn couldn't have just taken their memories and left them alone.
Julian said, his voice deepening with emotion.
I've seen what Balthazar is able to do. What you are able to do. Why couldn't...
Damon put a finger against Julian's lips. You speak of what immortals can do. Yes, there are powerful vampires, but no one nearly as good as Balthazar in terms of erasing minds and filling them with proper memories. Your parents had strong wills. No one but an absolute master of the craft like Balthazar could have replaced their memories convincingly enough. In truth, they would have been driven mad by what they likely would have felt were alien memories. Julian stiffened. For a moment he imagined his parents wandering their home, looking for something that they had lost but could not remember. He could envision them with unbrushed hair and unkempt bodies. Their eyes would be too wide and too large in gaunt faces, as they would have forgotten to eat in their search for what was missing. He swallowed. Yes, Julian, it would have been something like that. I do not want to say that death is better, but they would have been broken by this, Damon explained. Julian tended to agree with that, but still he felt a deep rage about their loss. Now that he knew the truth about vampires, he realized far more deeply that his parents' quest to find them had been a worthy one. All their lives they had been looking for the mystical and monstrous. Vampires were both of those things. They would have had proof that one of the things that they had searched for was true, that the world was so much more than people believed it was, and that was what his parents had always wanted to impart to people. A sense of wonder, a sense of mystery, a sense of enlightenment.
You know, people talk a lot about what would happen if humanity found out that it wasn't alone. Like aliens or vampires, I guess. How everything would change.
Julian murmured. I have not yet decided if I will reveal the existence of vampires to humanity once I assume the throne, Damon said without any sort of hesitation. Julian's eyes widened.
You would reveal vampires' existence to humanity? I mean, I know I just said that everything would be different, but I should clarify that I don't believe that everything would be good.
Damon grinned. You are worried that humans would imprison vampires and... Damon's forehead furrowed as he read Julian's tumbling thoughts. We would be vivisected, and our blood would be tested. We would be lab animals and...
Yeah, because even though you guys are amazingly strong...
You guys? You are one of us.
Yes, of course, but what I'm trying to say is that we have a big weakness, namely that we can't bear sunlight and have to sleep during the day.
And humanity has many weapons, plus they are quite adaptable, meaning that they would likely find some kind of weapon involving UV rays that would destroy us, Damon murmured. He looked thoughtful, but he didn't look like he was completely putting off the idea of revealing their existence to the world out of his head. These are all good points. I will consider them, but I am not one who likes to remain in the shadows forever. Humanity and vampires were at one time quite aligned. They could be so again.
You remember how I told you that we weren't really into kings in America? But I think that's actually true all around the world. Old monarchies and stuff like that, well, they don't really rule anything anymore. They're more there to be figureheads.
Julian struggled to explain this point.
What I'm trying to say is that most people have been born with the idea that they can be a king in their own life, and that they don't want to worship anyone else, well, other than celebrities, but that's different. So going back to a time where people are eager to bend a knee to a king, well, I don't know if that would ever happen again.
Damon smiled. Would you have thought that Balthazar would want to take a knee at any point? Julian's mouth opened and shut.
You have a point. But then again, he's always sort of been looking for a father figure, I think, since Roan ended up being such a bastard to him. You're like, well, a substitute dad or master or something.
Unlike you, my dear fledgling, who are so independent," Damon said and kissed his nose. Julian's nose scrunched up as he grinned at the vampire king.
Would you really want me to be all clingy and needy?
He then thought of the fact that he grew itchy every time that Damon left the room. So maybe he was a little clingy and needy, but he didn't want to worship the man. Well, maybe a little, but not that much. "I adore you as you are," Damon answered simply, which really didn't answer anything at all. Julian's fangs started to ache, and he was looking at Damon's vast expanse of golden skin again. How could he already be feeling hungry again? He could imagine sinking his fangs into that velvety flesh once more, and then the hot gush of blood filling his mouth. Just a day ago, that would have sounded disgusting to him. He certainly would not have been aroused at the thought.
Aroused again.
"Yes, again, my beautiful fledgling," Damon murmured, "and I could not be more pleased."
But you need to feed first,
Julian said firmly.
before I feed again.
"How lucky we are, then, that I am going to be fed now," Damon said.
But we have to get an acolyte or two in here, and
There was a soft knock on the outer door, causing Julian to stop in mid-sentence.
you knew they were coming.
"I could hear them coming," Damon grinned.
I was too busy listening to your heart.
Julian admitted. Damon slipped out from under him, which had Julian grumbling. "I will be back. Just stay where you are, my fledgling. Rest. I assure you that our night will soon get more active." Join us next time for episode 59, Keep Your Happiness. The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. My dearest acolytes, I regret to inform you that this podcast has been edited to conform to this platform's rules and regulations. Obviously, sexy vampire interludes are not appreciated by these plebeians. This episode has been cut to be acceptable to audiences of all ages. Not to worry, if you are interested in hearing the full episode with all the steamy parts included, you can purchase a monthly membership at wraithrain.com. Not ready to commit to a monthly membership? Then please visit the shop at wraithrain.com, where the full episodes are available for sale in audiobook format. Last on Everdark, Julian wakes Damon up in a very pleasurable manner. But not everything is love. There is some talk of war. Well, potential war. Damon is considering revealing vampire's existence to humanity once he takes back over the vampire world. Now, we turn to Christian and Balthazar. Everdark, Chapter 59, Keep Your Happiness. Christian straddled Balthazar's thighs. He'd pulled the comforter and sheet down so that they were skin to skin. He was awake. He had been awake for half an hour, but had remained still and cuddled in Balthazar's arms. He'd expected the other man to wake up any minute, but the minutes had passed, and Balthazar had remained stubbornly asleep. So he had decided to take matters into his own hands, or legs. He had slid on top of Balthazar and straddled him. He looked down at Balthazar's handsome face. In sleep, he almost looked innocent, like some kind of sleeping prince that could just be woken with a kiss. He almost snorted at the idea of Balthazar being innocent. He had a feeling that his master was born naughty.
And he's acting naughty now. He must be awake. He's just pretending, surely. I'll prove it.
Christian leaned down and kissed Balthazar's lips. He felt no answering smooch. He drew back. His master remained seemingly asleep. Christian remained just inches away from Balthazar's lovely face. His hands balled into fists by his master's broad shoulders. He looked for any movement, but there was no twitching of the eyes or mouth. Balthazar was breathing, and his heartbeat was steady.
You're pretending,
Christian said firmly, even though he had nothing to back that up. A slight smile appeared on Balthazar's lips. His master did not open his eyes, however, but asked, "Let me guess. You were an early riser in your first life, right?"
Yes, and your point is? One doesn't want to waste one's days on this earth sleeping. We should get up and...
Christian, we have eternity. No matter how much time we spend sleeping, we still have eternity to do everything else we wish to do. I have never been an early riser, Balthazar retorted with his eyes still firmly shut, as if that would belie the fact that he was speaking and quite clearly awake.
The sun could swallow the earth tomorrow. Well, perhaps not tomorrow, but at some point in time. So we don't have eternity here.
The next section of the podcast has been edited out. We will retreat to the Everdark if that happens, or we will accompany the humans into space. I am certain by the time this planet is threatened by annihilation by the sun, we will have a solution for it, and will spend eternity elsewhere, Balthazar retorted softly.
Nuclear annihilation could happen.
Christian offered.
Or there could be a pandemic that kills everyone, and...
Where is all of this coming from? Has your parents' presence brought this on? Balthazar did crack an eyelid open at that point and looked at him curiously. Christian did know that his statements were quite ridiculous. The likelihood of any of those things happening was quite low, and yet he didn't feel a sense that he had forever to do all he wished to do. He still felt that mortal pull to investigate, learn, and record whatever he saw. Becoming a vampire hadn't turned that off. What was surprising to him was how eager he was to have Balthazar by his side at all times.
Is it the master fledgling bond? Or just Balthazar? Does it matter because I feel it truly either way? But there's only so much time I'll have with my parents unless they agree to become vampires themselves, right?
Christian remarked. Both of Balthazar's eyes were open now. Your mother has not accepted the fact that you are a vampire. Floating the idea that she becomes one right now is probably not a good idea. It's actually almost the worst idea I can think of, bar me chasing down a virginal young man, feeding from him, and...
And?
Christian's eyebrows rose.
What would you do to this virginal young man?
Balthazar pursed his lips. I'm afraid if I say it to you that it would be an even worse idea.
It would.
Christian slid to the side and lay on the bed on his back. Balthazar sat up, propping himself on one elbow. The next section of the podcast has been edited out. I didn't say that you had to get off me. In fact, I was quite enjoying.
Yes, I could tell. I was enjoying it too, but then virginal young men became involved, and my morning plans were just dashed.
Christian crossed his arms over his chest. Balthazar inched closer, looking at him with puppy eyes. It had never occurred to him that a vampire could make puppy eyes, yet Balthazar was succeeding. He narrowed his own eyes at his master. I was just suggesting what your mother would find most objectionable. Not that I want virginal young men. They're so messy, and things are so short. Really, there's nothing about them I care about at all. Oh. You're back in my arms. Balthazar sounded so pleased. Christian had pounced on him, and he had both of Balthazar's wrists, pinning his master to the bed. Being a vampire had many advantages, and speed and strength were just two of them. My dearest acolytes, I regret to inform you that this podcast has been edited to conform to this platform's rules and regulations. Obviously, sexy vampire interludes are not appreciated by these plebeians. This episode has been cut to be acceptable to audiences of all ages. Not to worry, if you are interested in hearing the full episode with all the steamy parts included, you can purchase a monthly membership at wraithrain.com. Not ready to commit to a monthly membership? Then please visit the shop at wraithrain.com, where the full episodes are available for sale in audiobook format. Christian did drift for a while between sleep and wakefulness. Balthazar smoothed a hand through his hair. Sweat dried in the cool air of the bedroom. Balthazar kept it very cool, and Christian was more than grateful now for it. The heat of Balthazar's body against his was pleasant, keeping him from getting chilled. Silence, except for Balthazar's soft breathing and his heart, was all that Christian heard at first. Then, so soft as to be almost inaudible, was David's voice. "You are so beautiful." Christian's head jerked up. He nearly nailed Balthazar in the forehead, but his master's vampire reflexes got him out of the way in time. "What is it?" Balthazar asked.
Did you say something?
Christian asked. "Just now?" "Yes, I asked."
No, before I got up. I was sleeping, and I thought...
Christian shook his head and laid back down. Balthazar's hand was in his hair, playing with the curls. "What did you hear?" He did not answer his master, but said,
Happiness scares me, Balthazar.
His master blinked a few times. "Are you saying that you're happy? Because you look terrified, and I..."
Hugely. I'm hugely happy.
Christian's lips lifted in a tremulous smile.
I don't know that I've ever been this happy. So I'm terrified. I don't want to sleep the night away because I'm afraid that this happiness will slip through my fingers, just like grains of sand. How can I be so happy when I'm the cause of a man's madness and death? No, it's not my fault. But why do I still think about what I could have done to have changed the outcome? It's not true what they say that nothing could have been done.
Christian.
So much could have been.
Christian, stop this. Please, stop. Balthazar's voice was firm, commanding. It so often wasn't. He was so careful with everyone not to command them when he could easily.
I'm trying. I really am. It's just... you.
Balthazar blanched. "I remind you of David."
No, of course not. The opposite.
Balthazar ran his hands up and down Christian's sides, around to his back and along his spine. Gooseflesh broke out on Christian's arms. The pleasure of that simple touch was so intense that he could feel Balthazar's mind opening to his like a flower blooming. To be this close to someone and not be afraid of them was so impossible. At least it had been. Only Julian and his parents had ever gotten this close to him. But Balthazar was as close as they were, and even more so. I want you to understand that each person's path is their own, Christian.
Meaning that I'm not responsible for other people? But of course we are. People can be our heaven or hell.
Christian objected. Now that is a romantic thought. Balthazar smiled sadly. There are people who cannot be moved by our actions.
Roan, yes. I can imagine that. He was a sadist. He was mentally unwell, and...
David took advantage of a child. He wrecked himself, and he wanted to do it just as much as Roan wanted to have me as his marionette on strings. Balthazar let out an acidic laugh. Some people want to hurt others. Some want to hurt themselves. And sometimes there is nothing anyone can do about it.
I don't know if I agree.
Balthazar gritted his teeth, but then nodded. Then I will have to find a way to protect you forever from David. Christian got up again, or tried to, but Balthazar kept him lying down.
Is he... Do you hear him?
No. Someone is trying to reach you, and they will have to get past me, but that will affect your training and...
You mean that I have to somehow give up my guilt about David in order to be free of his ghost?
The outrage was high in Christian's voice. Yes, most likely. We have no other speakers of the dead to teach you, but I'm guessing that if you cannot let the guilt go, then you will not be able to banish his soul. You might be keeping him near you, Balthazar answered.
Oh, no. No, I will not accept that.
And yet, he feared it was true.
What about a Cali vampire? Would they maybe know another way to free me?
Oh, I'm betting they would, but likely not any we would like. But we do have their friendship. Well, that one house.
The corpse powder house?
Yes.
You don't want to drink more of that poison, do you? Because I don't want to experience it secondhand.
Christian groaned. I learned my lesson, but I'm betting whatever the Cali will have as a solution to David will be just as double-edged, Balthazar remarked dryly.
Touché. I'll consider what you've said.
A wicked grin crossed Balthazar's face. His long hair was all mussed, but he still looked sensual and somehow put together despite the mussiness. I'm glad. Now, shall we nap?
Nap? No,
You don't want us to linger in bed? Explore one another. Learn each other completely. Can't you spare any time for that? Christian leaned down and placed his hands on either side of Balthazar's head.
I'm quite happy to do almost anything with you in this bed, other than sleep.
He feared what voices more sleep would bring. Balthazar grinned like a happy little boy. I thought you'd never say that.
You thought I'd never be in this bed with you.
Christian remarked dryly. Both of them had thought that. Both of them had been gloriously wrong. I am quite content to have made that erroneous assumption. Balthazar's hands were suddenly feathering through Christian's hair and bringing his head down for a kiss. His master's taste was like nothing he could quite describe.
You don't mind that I think of steaks when we kiss, do you? Mushrooms in a rich sauce? Or the most delectable chocolate cake with...
Are you hungry again, Christian? Balthazar asked. Christian blinked. His stomach growled.
I suppose I am, but you do taste so good to me.
The next section of the podcast has been edited out.
I don't know what's wrong.
Christian bleated. Nothing. A new vampire is always hungry. You haven't fed enough.
But I just...
Not enough. I need to feed myself. And then there was a soft knock on the door, and Balthazar groaned into Christian's mouth. Christian turned his head to the door and wondered who it was. Why don't you try to read their mind and figure it out? Balthazar suggested. Let's see if you can do it without interference. Christian frowned.
How do I...
Imagine reaching out with your hand. But don't do that, obviously. Imagine that your hand could stretch from here to the door, that you could open the door and see who was standing there, and then you could even reach inside of them and open them too. Balthazar explained. Christian envisaged exactly that. His hand was turning the bedroom door and opening it, and he saw a figure standing there. It was...
Dr. Stone!
Christian exclaimed. The doctor's voice came through the door. Yes, William sent me here to assist. Seems that you need more acolytes to feed your growing house. Christian frowned.
He doesn't like giving blood. Damon scares him.
Balthazar nodded. Excellent work, my fledgling. Yes, the doctor thinks of himself as someone too important to be fed from, and in normal circumstances he would be right. But we still have not been able to gain more acolytes yet, and the Vampire King requires far more blood than a normal vampire.
I'm sure that he'll go out hunting.
No, I don't want him to have to do that. He is a guest of my house and my friend. I should provide for him, not to mention the whole king thing, Balthazar said with a frown. He called out, Come in, Dr. Stone. The doctor tried the door, but it was clearly locked. Could you unlock it first? Balthazar sighed. He kissed Christian's forehead. I promise, Christian, that I will ensure that your happiness does not end. You will not lose this, my fledgling. I swear it. And with another kiss, Balthazar left his side, but Christian could still feel his master's mind wrapped around him. Join us next time for episode 60. Choose the reason for your death.
How can you find out what Wraith Rain is up to? There are lots of ways, but none of them are social media. Social media comes and goes, and posts get lost in the feed. But our website and mailing list belong to us. So that's what we rely on to post the news. The front page of the Wraith Rain website, wraithrain.com, tells you what's happening in the next month, what chapters to expect, when the podcast will publish next, free books on Amazon coming up, the next actor live stream, and anything else that's new. You can also join our email list. It's old school, but it's what a lot of people rely on. Our emails are probably the most informative communication because we aren't limited to the space of a social media post. Links to our homepage and the form to join the email list are in the notes.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing. Last on Everdark. Christian didn't want to sleep with Balthazar in the bed. He wants to do everything else. But when Christian does allow himself to sleep, it is David's voice he hears. Balthazar worries that Christian is keeping David's soul near him, and until he learns how to control his gift and let the guilt about what happened to David go, Christian will never be free. But they need a Calais vampire to teach Christian. Now we turn back to Damon. Everdark, Episode 60. Choose the reason for your death. Damon looked up at Heath's floating body. Already he could see that the body was breaking down and would not be suitable for habitation. This was happening so much faster than it should. That meant Callie was doing something to Heath's soul. He knew that he should destroy the body before Heath's friends and family saw its deterioration, but he loathed to do so, because it was an admission that he had failed and Callie had won. His eyes narrowed and his hands fisted at his sides. He and Callie had been friends. Well, as much of a friendship as Callie was capable of, but he remembered the mocking voice that had been filled with an acidic hatred as Callie had taken Heath's soul and done who knew what to it. He knew enough of Callie's personality to know that the immortal would likely make it impossible for him to bring Heath back for Elena, Ridley, and the whole of House Ravenscroft. Callie sought to hurt him by hurting them, to try and show that he was too weak to be their king, unable to protect them. So why should they follow him? His mood darkened further. Even with Julian's bright spark in his mind, the young man was with the Thorns. He could not shake this feeling of dissatisfaction. Why had Callie turned so against him? Or perhaps that was obvious. The immortals had been overthrown. Callie themselves had to hide as a normal vampire. Seer was locked in solace, in pain and in the dark for who knew how long, suffering terrible wounds and indignities. Iros had died, but thankfully had been reborn and was by his side again. And Wyvern. His gaze lifted to the doorway in this last room of the catacombs. Fiona was standing there. Her eyes reflected the white-blue glow of the magic that surrounded Heath's body. The glow, along with the white marble, gave a ghostly ambience to everything.
What is all of this?
She asked. I was bringing Heath back from the dead, he answered.
But that's a Callie gift. How can you?
She shook her head. The beads in her hair clacked together softly.
So, you really can use all the gifts?
He did not answer. She knew the answer to her questions. He was Damon. He had all the gifts and one more. She drifted into the room. Her slim figure in all black glided between the marble sarcophagi. Her gaze never left Heath's body. He doubted that she had ever witnessed the bringing back of the dead. The vampires of the Callie bloodline were very greedy of their gift. They did not like to share the glory or horror of it.
How did he die? And why are you bringing him back?
She stopped a few feet away from him, still staring up at Heath. Because I ended his second life. Balthazar ordered Celine and Heath to watch Julian and Christian. He was convinced that they knew where a new Everdark city was. They were just to watch. But unbeknownst to Balthazar, Celine and her master were secretly working for your preceptor, who gave her very different orders, he explained. She was to kill Julian and Christian if they entered the city. Fiona's forehead furrowed.
He is not just my preceptor. He is everyone's.
He raised an eyebrow at her. You think he is mine?
No, You are different. You are beyond us, above us. You are King Damon.
She looked more distressed rather than less. He put his arms behind his back, crossing them at the wrists. Arceus tells me that the Order venerates me, and that you are a true believer. Yet you spied upon me and have been working against me. Why? Fiona's mind whirled, and he felt her own feelings of dissonance about what she had done. Her lips opened and nothing came out at first.
Because I did not believe it was you at first.
But you do now.
Your role in the faith is, unclear. Some claim that you inspired them to fight against the immortals, that you gave them greater strength and—
I did not. Damon interrupted her. I did not know of the war. I had no idea of the suffering of the vampires or abuses by immortals. She gave a jerky nod.
Yes, I see.
He smiled grimly. Does this mean your worship of me should end? She glanced up at him.
No, that's not it at all. You are the greatest of those that created us. You ruled them. You ruled all of us. You are said to have led the immortals to Earth in the first place. Is that true?
He nodded.
Althea spoke to me for a long time last night about you.
She rubbed her elegant long-fingered hands together. Damon smiled. Arceus is fond of me, as I am of him.
He is more than fond of you. He believes you are far greater than anything the Order ever thought, even if you had no role in the war.
She went on.
He believes you are the right person to lead the vampires forward, not the Council, and certainly not the Order.
I am king, he stated. It was a fact. It was not an opinion. It was not even a choice, as his fledglings sometimes thought it was. It was the way things were, and always would be.
You say that as if it should mean something to me.
She put a hand to her chest.
And perhaps it does. In my heart, I feel something when I look at you. It's my head that tells me to demand proof of your worthiness. Arceus recommends that I follow my heart.
She smiled fondly.
He always says that.
Then why do you resist his advice? Has your head always led you correctly? She shook her head.
It has led me to safety, but not happiness.
Her gaze grew distant.
When I went to Solis this last time, what I saw there, the blood slaves, those vampires forced into being confessors, the complete lack of faith, I realized I didn't recognize the Order anymore.
She frowned.
It wasn't that the Order had changed overnight. I just hadn't been watching.
Why did you not join Arceus and Balthazar in exile? Damon studied her handsome face. It seems to me that the Order has been going in the wrong direction for some time, perhaps even before Caemorn took up as preceptor.
Because I did not think Arceus wanted me to. I know that Balthazar didn't.
She snapped. Then she put a hand on her forehead and squeezed the top of her nose.
But that isn't altogether true. Well, the part about Balthazar is true, but I wasn't sure I wanted to leave what I knew, or what I thought I knew.
Did you think the Order was right for exiling Balthazar? From what I have learned, Roan Tithe needed killing. His voice went slightly low at this. It angered him that Balthazar and the others of House Ravenscroft had been left at the mercy of Roan. And when Balthazar did the right thing, he was exiled.
While I think that Roan should have been dealt with, it should have been the proper authorities, not by Balthazar,
she said.
We have too many vampires who think they know what is best when they do not. We need order.
Damon chuckled. I see why Balthazar does not like you. She lifted her head, eyes widening.
What? Why do you say that?
You like rules. You think that things should go through a proper procedure so that there is stability, Damon said with a shake of his head.
And he likes chaos.
She crossed her arms over her chest. He looks at things on an individual basis. He would do anything for his friends, whether it retained order in the greater world or not. He would do what he believes is right, and damn the consequences. He listed off, a smile lifting his lip.
And you approve of that? A king approves a wild card?
Her eyebrows rose. As a king, one needs people such as yourself who are interested in the rule of law and order, while one also needs those that are loyal and act on their emotions, who feel the rightness of an act. Damon corrected her.
And what of him?
She pointed to Heath.
Why are you bringing back someone who tried to harm your and Balthazar's fledglings?
While you're listening to this final chapter of Volume 4, members are listening to the end of Volume 5 on the private podcast feed. If you want to binge the next 15 episodes or more, depending on when you're listening to this, consider joining wraithrain.com as a supporting member. Don't forget, you can also read the rest of Everdark, then read over 120 chapters of the sequel, Everdark Academy, and find out what happens next.
Heath was unaware of Celine's true intentions, but as she was his friend and a member of his house, he followed along with her. Blind loyalty, not something you would do, he noted. But she only nodded slowly as if not sure. Maybe she was thinking of her following of Camorn, which was a good thing. When she threatened Julian and Christian's lives, I killed both Celine and Heath. As a gesture of goodwill and thankfulness for House Ravenscroft's help, I was bringing Heath back when Cully interfered. He stole Heath's soul, and now this body rots.
Why?
Perhaps Heath knew something of use. Perhaps it was just to show me up in front of House Ravenscroft, though I doubt that was the only reason, as it revealed that Cully is involved in the Order's plans against me, he said.
Do you have any idea where Cully is?
She asked. We do not even know who Cully is. Damon reminded her. Seeing her confusion, he explained. Cully changes bodies like most people change clothes. They will likely be in the Everdark.
You believe they are working with Camorn, yes? So perhaps they are in Solis,
she suggested. He could read from her mind that she was remembering every high-ranking person in the Order, but none of them seemed to her to be what she imagined Cully to be like. Through her mind, he did not see anyone either who appeared to be the bitter immortal. I highly doubt that Cully will be in Solace, he said with a shake of his head. She frowned.
But why not? Would they not want to be near Camorn and the seat of power?
Damon let out a laugh. Cully would secrete themselves as far away from the seat of power as possible. They know that the safest place is the most unlikely place to find them. The seat of power is never safe. Camorn is merely a tool, someone that the people can fix their gaze upon and therefore not see the person pulling the strings.
Camorn is a powerful and intelligent vampire. He is one of the most powerful Callie that has ever been born. Are you certain that he is not Callie?
She asked. You do not think he is, and you know him far better than I. But I am positive he is not, simply for the fact that Cully would never expose themselves in this way. They do not care to sit on the throne. They just wish to be in power, whether the majority knows they are or not. Working from the shadows is what Cully has always done best.
I see.
She circled Heath's body, her expression thoughtful.
You have been gone a long time, King Damon. Why has Callie chosen now to assert their power? Would it not have been better to do so right after the war ended?
There are countless reasons why Cully may have remained hidden until now, but that doesn't mean they were not in power. They simply could have been ruling the vampires from a different angle before they took up this one. Perhaps what they were doing before was no longer working. Perhaps it pleases them to simply work through the Order, which I'm sure Cully finds unendingly amusing on many levels. Damon mused.
Why would Callie find using the Order as amusing?
Because Cully would know what a lie it all is. He gave her a mirthless smile that had her lowering her head. Cully was always searching for something greater than us through the doorway of death. In some ways, Cully knew more than any of us about the nature of the universe and what lies beyond, but it did not make them happy.
What do you suppose Callie's desire is by ruling us? Simply to keep you off the throne? Or do they have some dark purpose?
She asked. Damon gave a small smile. Cully and I were friends, at least to the extent that Cully can be friends with anyone, before I went to sleep. But it seems they blame me for things that have occurred. I do not recall that Cully said much of anything when they knew my plans, but then again, they rarely did speak their mind about things that were controversial. They assumed that person was going to do what they were going to do, regardless of what Callie thought.
So basically, if Callie had a problem with you going to sleep, they wouldn't have said anything but simply fumed in silence?
Fiona summarized. Damon nodded. That is exactly what they would have done. I should have pressed them, but I was too wrapped up in my own pain to consider anyone else. Even when Seer told me that when I woke things would be changed, destroyed, really. I did not back down from my determination to sleep until my fledgling was born.
You believed that things could go on without you. You believed that we didn't need you.
Fiona said softly.
That is the only logical explanation for your actions. Despite what you say, now that you are king, you must have thought that it didn't matter on some level if you were just going to sleep away the millennia and not rule.
Damon considered her words. I trusted that the other immortals would continue on the path that I had set forward. I underestimated the role I played in keeping them on that path. I also clearly did not know how much of a role I played keeping them from one another's throats.
Perhaps Callie is angry that you were not there to stop the war between them. Perhaps Callie thinks that you do not deserve to be back on the throne if you take your leadership role so lightly,
she remarked, very carefully. His eyes darted to her, and his voice was sharp as he retorted, I expected that the immortals would act as the rulers they were, taking care of their own fledglings who they claimed to adore. How was I to know that they would use their fledglings like cannon fodder against one another for petty reasons? Every mortal life that we turned was sacred. It was done with great care and deliberation. And now I come back and find that all of that was a lie. He shook his head violently, realizing he was angry with his fellow immortals. It seemed that they had acted capriciously. I am not fit to rule. It sounds to me like they were the ones wanting. I had no idea it was just my strength that kept them from behaving like fools, like jealous and crazy tyrants.
One is always more careful about what one thinks and feels around the boss. We put our best face on, offer our most loyal words, reflect what the boss wants to see.
She reminded him with a small smile. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps, at the end, I did not consider my role enough before I chose to sleep. But I was forgotten by the immortals as well. They stopped coming and feeding me. I starved for millennia, he remarked grimly.
Was all of it worth it? Now that you have Julian, are you glad you slept millennia away waiting for him?
She studied his face carefully. You will not like my answer. For while I regret what has occurred since I was away, I would not change it. He responded just as quietly. I would have gone mad if I had stayed awake and continued to suffer. Perhaps I would have been the one to destroy everyone, not wanting to see their happiness while I had none.
Does Julian know how much he means to you?
Her hands were pressed together in front of her chest as if in a prayer. Somewhat, but I would not burden him with the fullness of my feelings, he said. Julian is naturally empathetic. He is a hero. He would think of his role simply to keep me happy and not to develop into his own person. I will not have that. Fiona rubbed her arms as if she felt chilled.
I left my master long ago and joined the Order. I felt no great attachment to her. I don't think she felt one for me either. We have not spoken in 100 years. When I hear you speak of Julian like this, it is not something that I would have wished for myself, but I believe that there are others who would find it very compelling, and it would humanize you, King Damon, for people to know.
She gave him a grin, but that quickly faded.
But it also leaves you vulnerable, does it not? Does Callie know how much Julian means to you?
That was the question now, wasn't it? Callie was aware of why he went to sleep, but did the necromancer immortal understand the emotions he felt towards Julian? Callie was callous. Their own fledglings meant little to them except in two ways. The first was in how the vampire could aid them in their ever-expanding study of death, and the second was if any of them were getting too powerful and had to be put down. So would Callie understand how much a single fledgling could mean? You are thinking that if Callie were to go after anyone to get to me, it would be Julian, he remarked. She nodded her head.
It is what I would do.
You do not consider yourself my enemy any longer? Damon gave her a raised eyebrow.
I never considered you my enemy. I always intended to make my own determination. I was following orders, but when those orders ceased to make sense to me, I stopped following them. And here I am,
she said with a shrug. He stepped closer to her so that they were eye to eye as he said the following. Fiona, you know that moment when you chose to remain with the Order instead of following Arceus and Balthazar into exile? You saw that as Arceus and Balthazar's choice. They chose exile. The law punished them, but the truth is that they chose what they believed was right. Now you have the same choice before you. If you wish, I will let you go, and you can return to Caemon. No one will speak of your defection, but if you stay, you must choose me and my side. You cannot be neutral.
I risked everything by coming here.
What did you risk? Your position? Friendships? From my viewpoint, your only friend is Arceus, and you abandoned him. And what position do you really have in the Order, other than errand girl? Damon pointed out to her. From what I'm seeing, you risked nothing, because you have nothing to lose. She drew in a sharp breath.
What about my second life?
Damon shook his head and let out a huff of air. Perhaps, but know this. You will not die because you personally mattered, but only because for them to lose even one person is a threat. But your death will not be personal. You should wish to be killed for something better than that. Her eyes widened.
Wish to be killed?
If you are going to take a stand, if you are going to risk eternity, you best believe in what you're fighting for. Do not be a victim of fate. Choose your life and your death, he told her. I will give you a day to decide. Either you are with me, or you must leave. I will know either way at the end of it. Her back stiffened, and she gave him a jerky nod. He turned to Heath, and he stretched out a hand. The blue and white glow that surrounded the floating body flowed to him. The power that remained filled him as the body burst into 1,000 points of blue-white light. At that moment, last on Everdark, Damon and Fiona confront one another. Fiona points out to Damon that his absence caused so much damage. Can they trust him to rule them again when he's shown he could leave them? Damon challenges Fiona to choose a side. Everdark, Episode 61, Gift or Curse. Julian felt guilty. He and Elizabeth were walking arm in arm in the garden, while Sophia skipped ahead of them, cutting night blooms and putting them in a basket. She was singing a sweet song to herself, and the very whir of the insects seemed to join in as a chorus. Stars were spread across the night sky like diamonds, cast by a careless yet generous hand. The moon was large and luminous. Even if he hadn't had night vision, he would have been able to see effortlessly. The air was cool and crisp, just right for a cozy fire, which they would be going back to after this walk, and the conversation was interesting and pleasant. But Julian was only half present. He was listening to the hum of Damon's thoughts and tracking his master within the house, so guilt pricked at him. Elizabeth stopped in mid-sentence and asked with a smile,
What's wrong, Julian? Your mind is only half here and half, well, I'm not sure where.
Her intelligent eyes then narrowed.
Perhaps with Damon?
A flush coated his cheeks.
I'm just aware of him because our minds are linked.
Her eyebrows rose.
Really? That's all? Nothing to do with the fact that he's probably the handsomest man I've ever seen, or because you're afraid of him leaving?
Her forehead furrowed.
You've never been very attached to your lovers before. I'm assuming he's your lover?
Her raised eyebrows had him blushing again, but he had always been quite open with Elizabeth. He wondered sometimes if he told her too much, because Christian could say so little about his own relationships.
It's normal.
Sophia's sing-song voice rose up from where she was kneeling by a set of huge white blooms she was cutting.
What's normal, pet?
Elizabeth asked, as she went over to the child-sized vampire and ran a hand through her golden locks. Sophia let out a satisfied sound and turned her head into the touch, as if she was one of the flowers she adored. and Elizabeth was the son.
Wanting to be with one's master all the time, Julian is actually being quite independent compared to most fledglings, as is Christian.
Sophia explained.
Normally, masters and fledglings hole up together for ages. Most masters won't let their fledglings out of their sight, let alone be around others or even leave their houses.
Julian gave out a snort. When both women looked up at him with a question in their eyes, he explained.
I was just imagining Damon trying to keep me in the house.
Indeed.
Elizabeth laughed.
You and Christian excelled at escaping from our home every chance you got.
I didn't think you knew we did that. We were so careful.
Julian gasped.
The two of you might have been cat burglars with the way you would climb out of the bathroom window onto the garage roof and then shimmy down the drain pipe.
Elizabeth gave him a smile.
But I'm a mother, which means I hear every single creak in my house and know what it is. Plus, I can always sense when the two of you were not in bed.
Julian burst out into laughter.
So all that secrecy was unnecessary? We could have just gone out the front door?
Well, no. If you were gonna disobey me, you were gonna have to work for what you wanted. Besides, I figured it was good for you to plan escapes, considering the adventures I knew you and Christian would be having when you were older.
Elizabeth said with a mischievous smile. Sophia giggled sweetly behind one hand.
So Christian and Julian were naughty boys?
Oh, yes. Both handfuls.
Elizabeth's laughter trilled in the garden. She cupped Julian's face.
Both so intelligent and curious, and with enough energy to power a small city each.
That describes them now.
Sophia said knowingly.
Exactly. That's why Balthazar and Damon don't even try to do what normal masters do and keep us hemmed in.
Julian said. His eyes, though, drifted to a piece of the sod, which was exactly where Damon was standing well beneath the earth. He could hear his master's heartbeat, and the urge to lay his ear against that powerful chest, close his eyes, and just listen to the steady thump, thump, thump was almost overwhelming. He swallowed thickly and curled his fingers against his palms.
No, neither of them will, though they will always be near, so don't worry,
Sophia said knowingly. Julian blushed for the third time that night, but this time he wasn't sure exactly why. His emotions around Damon were both incredibly clear and completely opaque to him at the same time. How could he feel so much for someone he had met such a short time ago? He'd spent his whole life keeping people at arm's length. He used to think that he was the open one while Christian was closed off, but now that he was with Damon, he realized that he had been even more shut away than his best friend had been.
I didn't want anyone in my life that I could lose. Better not to care about them from the get-go, and I wouldn't be risking anything when they went. But now, Damon means more than any of those people ever could, and he's in danger from Callie.
Sophia got up from her flower picking and proceeded ahead of them again, looking for more blooms to add to her basket, and giving them the semblance of privacy. Julian knew that Sophia could hear every word they spoke, not to mention the whoosh of blood in Elizabeth's veins. He was grateful to her, though, for giving them a moment together. Ever since his mother had died, he'd often turned to Elizabeth with questions that he could not answer by himself. But he was worried about telling her his feelings around Damon. She already had such distrust of vampires, though it seemed to have dimmed slightly since the dinner party that had gone wrong. He wondered if Balthazar would ever get over that. He'd tried so very hard. He'd heard Balthazar muttering about at least there being leftovers for the Thorns to eat.
Something is bothering you, Julian. What is it?
Elizabeth prodded slightly.
You know when you realize something about yourself, something that you had thought the exact opposite thing about, and how that can totally upend things for you?
Julian asked her. She let out a small laugh.
Like finding out that vampires are real?
He let out a huff of laughter himself.
Not quite the same thing. Unless you defined yourself by believing that vampires weren't real before.
Curiously, I was wondering if I did. Their very existence opens up questions that I had thought answered, at least for myself,
she admitted, her expression going thoughtful. Julian was drawn out of his own concerns and asked her,
What questions?
One's about whether there's something after our deaths. Though I suppose since Damon isn't from this earth, he is more akin to an alien than a demon or an angel, isn't he? Yet I am now thinking of God and the devil.
She waved a hand through the air and gave a slightly self-conscious laugh.
I thought that was all pure poppycock. I thought that once we died, that was it. Now, I can't quite believe that.
Let me totally blow your mind. There are souls, Elizabeth.
He told her.
Damon was going to bring someone back from the dead.
Elizabeth's forehead furrowed.
Yes, Balthazar told me something about that last night.
There's a whole bloodline of vampires whose gift involves using the dead and souls to power their magic, and Damon has assured me that there is something after this.
He left out that he, too, might be able to raise the dead himself. That might be a step too far for her to contemplate. As he spoke to her about this, he realized he hadn't quite thought of the implications of it all. Being a vampire meant that he might actually be excluded from what came next.
Unless I'm given my second death, which I hope not, but then maybe I'd join my parents. Or what if the afterlife is like our most primitive concepts of it? Are vampires allowed in heaven?
It's just that the world seemed so understandable before. Somewhat boring in a way, in the sense that it was predictable.
Elizabeth admitted with a soft laugh.
But that left more time for the studies of esoteric things. Now, my most basic understanding of the world is wrong. How can I study minutiae when I don't even understand the macro?
She gestured to the night sky above them and the glorious gardens surrounding them, and the little girl, who was thousands of years old, collecting flowers just a few feet away.
All the years a Christian and I looked for evidence of magic and monsters, I thought I'd be prepared for actually finding them. And I'm still, I don't know.
Julian grinned.
I should be in shock.
You should be.
She shook her head and sighed.
But you're not. You're excited, I can tell.
Julian couldn't help but show his enthusiasm.
I can't wait for this trouble to be over so that I can find out more. There are endless things to learn about, and endless years to do it.
His voice drifted off. He was looking down at Elizabeth, and for a moment he thought that he could see her skull beneath her skin. He shivered, and Sophia looked back at him at that moment. Their eyes met, and he could hear her thoughts. One thought, really.
You have all the gifts, Julian, including that of my mistress.
Julian blanched. The back of Elizabeth's hand was suddenly against his cheek, and she was looking up at him gravely.
Julian, something else is wrong now. You can't hide these things from me.
What if Everdark were a manga? Now you can find out with Everdark War Child. This is a prequel with Julian and Christian before they knew that vampires are real. Drawn by T-Wolve in a traditional manga style, these characters are brought to life in a completely new way. Right now, the first volume of the Everdark manga is available for sale in our shop. The link is in the notes.
He opened his mouth to answer her, to tell her it was nothing, but the words wouldn't come. Was he seeing that she would die? Did that mean that she wouldn't become a vampire like they were? That she would reject the gift of immortality? Or maybe she wouldn't even be given the choice, that chance, because someone else would take it from her. At that moment, he was spared from even trying to speak, as Elena burst out of the back door, yelling at the top of her lungs.
You took my fledgling away from me! Why should you be allowed to have the happiness that I am now denied?
Ridley was racing after her in sleepwear, a pair of flowy silk shorts and a crop top.
Mistress, please stop. Please.
Elena's gaze scoured the garden until it landed upon him. Her right hand shot out and pointed directly at him. He felt almost physically speared by it. He stopped walking and simply stared at her. Elena was thinner than before. Her face was gaunt in a way that reminded him of a living skeleton with skin pulled too tightly over the bones.
Is that the woman who lost her fledgling?
Elizabeth asked, drawing near to him.
Yes.
Julian stepped in front of Elizabeth and called,
Sophia, protect Elizabeth, please.
Of course, but masters are always near in times of trouble.
Sophia said, but a quick glance behind him showed that Sophia was directly by Elizabeth's side. She'd put down her basket of flowers so that both of her hands were free. Julian turned back, his attention fully on the furious vampire approaching him. She was so weak, she'd stumbled on the stone path. He could smell her blood when she skinned her knee. She shouldn't have been hurt, and even if she had been by such a minor fall, She should have been healed immediately, but she hadn't. She was starving.
You are the cause of my Heath's second death.
Elena cried, spittle coating her lips. Ridley put her hands on her mistress's upper arms and tried to hold her, but with a sudden burst of unnatural strength, Elena burst away from her and towards Julian. He had faced many people in fights, in darkened alleys, on rooftops and in questionable watering holes, so Julian wasn't afraid of fighting. But he didn't want to fight Elena. He didn't want to hurt her. She was starving and out of her mind.
Mistress, no!
Ridley cried. She'd fallen back, but quickly jumped to her feet and was grabbing at her mistress again.
Elena,
Julian said.
Elena, you should go inside with Ridley. You're not well.
Not well?
Elena let out a shrill laugh.
Yo!
One of her hands flew towards him, but where there had been empty air before between them was suddenly filled. Damon caught her wrist. Fiona took both of Elena's arms in hers and held her in place. Both of them had teleported together. Elena. Damon's voice was low and seemingly calm, but Julian knew he wasn't. That deadly calm had settled on his master, and he already knew Damon well enough to understand this was when he was most frightening. Julian reached for Damon's mind, but the vampire king's thoughts were closed to him, other than a wave of love and affection for him, but also a firmness. I wish you to go inside, Julian, Damon said. It wasn't quite an order, but Julian felt the command in it. Take Elizabeth and go inside. Julian swallowed and fought it. He stepped around so that Damon could see him.
I'm fine, Damon. She didn't hurt me. She didn't even touch me once. She's just upset and hungry and tired.
His master's red, glowing gaze did not, however, leave Elena. Julian reached out for Damon's mind, a caress at a closed door. He felt another wave of love, but the door stayed shut.
He's really angry. Beyond angry.
Ridley lowered herself to her knees on the grass. Her hands were clasped in front of her chest.
Please, King Damon, I beg you not to take your vengeance against her. She's not herself. She hasn't eaten since Heath's second death.
Vengeance?
Elizabeth's voice rose up in shock.
What are you saying? That he's going to harm her? But she's clearly out of her head. What right does he have to harm her?
To Julian's shock, it was Fiona who answered.
The right of the king. But even if Damon was not our ruler, Elena attacked Julian in full view of everyone. Damon has the right to challenge her to a fight. Of course, her second death would be certain in such a match. No, that can't be right. Killing someone, well, that's barbaric. She's clearly not in her right mind.
Elizabeth cried. Julian was inclined to agree with her.
I was never in any real danger from her, Damon. You know that. She's not thinking clearly.
Elena hung in Fiona's arms without moving. Her eyes were strangely empty. She was like one of those Raggedy Ann dolls whose sand was running out of her. Some cannot survive the destruction of their fledglings. Perhaps Elena is one of these. Damon finally spoke again, and it almost calmed Julian. It was in silence that Damon seemed the most unreachable. So it might be a blessing to give her the second death she seeks.
No!
That word was shouted from many mouths.
She's just in deep mourning. In time, she'll get better. Maybe you'll even be able to bring Heath back to her still.
Julian pleaded.
Killing her shouldn't even be part of this discussion.
Fiona again answered for Damon.
You do not understand, Julian. If Damon does not act against Elena, others may think they are equally allowed to show you violence and disrespect him.
Only someone insane would do that,
Julian said tightly.
They all know what the result would be. Them with their second deaths, and him not even sweating. And I'm pretty capable of taking care of myself. So anyone who wants to mess with me, they'll figure out pretty damn quick that they shouldn't.
Then Julian shook himself.
So no one is going to learn anything from this.
What's going on here? It was Balthazar's voice that rose up from the house. He and Christian were standing on the back step. They were only partially dressed. The buttons on Balthazar's fine tailored shirt was not completely done up. Christian had no shoes or socks on. They had evidently just been getting dressed when they heard the commotion. Balthazar slowly walked down the steps to them. Elena? Balthazar asked. His eyes looked bleak. What have you done? Christian rushed past him to Julian.
Are you okay? What's going on? We heard that Elena was threatening you.
Christian said in a rush.
I don't know what set her off, but...
Heath's body. He destroyed it.
Elena whispered.
What? Why?
Julian asked. It was already coming apart. Callie has possession of Heath's soul that is causing anything I do on his behalf to unravel, Damon explained. I did not want a corpse to float there. Julian's heart sank.
Oh no, that's awful.
So was Elena seeking Callie to punish? Or you, Julian? Balthazar asked, his gaze still on Elena.
She was confused and hurt and...
Julian, she attacked you, correct? Balthazar asked. But it didn't matter what Julian said. There was communication going on between Balthazar and Damon. Like he and Damon had, the two of them could speak without words. That bleakness increased. Balthazar's lips firmed into a tight line. By rights, you have the right to challenge Elena, but I would ask to do so in your stead, King Damon, Balthazar said. This is my house. She attacked one that is a brother to my fledgling.
No, my lord.
Ridley jumped up and clutched at Balthazar.
Take me. Challenge me. I'll take her punishment. I should have known that something was going on with Heath. It's my fault for not protecting my little brother.
Julian turned anxious eyes to Damon. He reached out again, practically banging on the door between them.
Don't do this. De-escalate this, please.
This is madness,
Elizabeth said.
Can't you all see that this is madness? How can death be so cheap to those who are immortal?
Fear.
Sophia spoke, and her word was like a bell that had rung. Damon turned around to look at her.
Will you act out of fear, King Damon? With a brush of your mind, you could end her suffering. With the blow of your hand, you could end her life. What kind of king will you be now when you have so much to lose?
Not a weak one, Damon told her.
Weakness would be acting as if she had been some kind of threat to Julian,
Elizabeth cried as she gestured to the sagging Elena.
Weakness would be striking down someone who is mentally ill. As Julian's second mother, I can tell you that if anyone were to hurt him, I would rip their throat out. But this woman, well, there's no danger from her, surely.
Damon, please don't do this.
Julian pleaded. He saw that his master's eyes shifted to him for a moment.
I know you don't want me to interfere in this. I can feel it, even though your mind is shut to me right now. But I really couldn't... I couldn't accept this kind of protection.
Christian laced his fingers through Julian's and held on tight. He too looked between Balthazar and Damon as they conferred once more without words. It was Balthazar who spoke. King Damon has granted Elena a dispensation for this vile act, but her mind will be altered. The words hung heavy in the air like frost on winter's morning. Elizabeth let out a gasp. All this talk of magic, and she couldn't quite believe the power that these vampires wielded. Balthazar turned towards her and gave her a soft, sad smile. Don't worry, Elizabeth. She won't remember a thing, Balthazar told her with no uncertainty in his voice. She'll be happy again.
No mother can forget a child,
Elizabeth said hoarsely. Again, that sad, flickering smile crossed Balthazar's handsome features. She will only remember what I allow her to. That is my gift. Elizabeth shook her head.
That sounds more like a curse.
Balthazar said nothing, but there was something in his eyes that said he felt that too. Join us next time for episode 62, Walk on the Beach.
What else has T-Wolf drawn for us? The cute and sexy Werewolf Next Door manga. This is a standalone sextra, as we call it, that we did just because we can. It's 177 pages, and 100 of them are considered unpublishable 18-plus material by Amazon. So we can't sell it there, which is why we have our own shop. The Everdark prequel manga is serious business, but the Werewolf Next Door manga is just for fun. Check that out too. Link in the notes.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince. Continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing.